All right, excellent. Welcome students to lesson 29 of year 3 science, family school, high school. And today we are going to talk about the non-vascular plants, okay? And to start us off, let's welcome Anna, okay, to teach us about this the difference between vascular and non-vascular plants. So Anna, would you like to take it?
Okay. So let's see. So this lesson, it was interesting to read this lesson because it talks a lot about another way of classifying plants. We talked a little bit about how plants are different, how they're similar, like different kinds of plants and how we classify them. This is another way to classify them into two different kind of groups. There's vascular and non-vascular. And vascular plants, they contain xylem and phloem, and these help to carry water and nutrients to the plants. Vascular plants, they also have a root system, and they do photosynthesis with leaves, and their scientific name is, let's see if I can pronounce this right, tracheophyte, I think, is the scientific name for.
That's right. Yes, tracheophytes.
Okay. So that's the one group, and then there's non-vascular plants, which their scientific name is bryophytes, and they are different from vascular plants because they don't have any xylem or phloem, and so they don't have any kind of straw-like tubes to carry nutrients and waters to the plant, and so they have to kind of absorb water and nutrients from the surrounding area. And because of this, they have to live in wet, moist areas, or else they'll dry out and they won't be able to survive. So it's kind of like they're a sponge. They can soak up the nutrients from the ground and rain and water and things like that.
Yeah, so where would you find them most of the times, these bryophytes?
I think in swamps and near streams and rivers, I think.
Yeah. Would you find them in your home?
Probably not.
What do you think? Emily says if you have a very wet house.
That's true.
Yeah. So usually if you want, Patrick says it depends on how clean you are. Well, actually, you know, it's common to find them on the north side of your house. Okay, here in the northern hemisphere, in the north side of your house. Okay, because the north side, you know, if you have a wall or something, that is where the sun never shines. Okay.
Oh.
And all right, and so that always, you know, if you think about your home, that is always kind of the more humid and dark area. So it is on the north side. Now, if you live in the southern hemisphere, like for example, when I was in Argentina, that would be then on the south side, all right, of your house, because that is where the shadows fall to. Okay. So,
okay.
yeah. In this picture that I have here, this is the picture in the Wikipedia article, you see this moss, okay, these large mosses growing, okay, on the ground of a wood, okay. Why would you think that they grow here?
I think maybe because the trees kind of shade them from the sun, so they're more able to grow because it's not so dry and hot there. And maybe they also kind of suck nutrients and things out of the trees.
Yes, so here in this area we have, you see kind of a little bit of a stream, okay? So this is an area probably where it gets more wet. You see on the higher elevation, that would be probably drier. We don't see the moss growing, all right? So wherever there is really kind of predictable humidity, then you are probably more likely to find here mosses and bryophytes, okay? Even the other types of bryophytes, the hornworts and the liverworts, all right, they grow mostly on the edge of streams. So they need a lot more moisture. So Sydney says, yeah, this kind of looks like around our creek. Aubrey says here, if you live on the East Coast, the basement could get lots of water in your basement and you would have to get a filter or you would get mold. All right. And just says we have those. So you have mosses in your area. Okay. So what is the difference between mold and moss? What is the difference between mold and moss?
Let's see. Is mold a fungi?
Yes, mold is a fungi, okay? And so mold breaks down stuff, says Chas. Yes, mold also, because it is a fungi, what do the mold eat?
What does it eat?
Yeah, what does the mold eat? If it's a fungi, okay, and just as it breaks down stuff, what do the mold would eat?
Kind of anything. Does it eat like dead stuff, maybe?
Yes, dead organic matter. Okay, so just as wood, leaves, anything, sometimes they even grow on walls and they can actually eat, the wall or anything that comes their way. So it's all dead organic matter, said Sydney. Excellent. Okay. What do mosses eat? And what type of organism are mosses?
Well, they're plants, so they eat they do photosynthesis, so they can create sugars and things like that.
That's right, that's right. So the moss is a plant, and so it does photosynthesis and autotroph. They make their own food, okay? That's why they are green. Emmeline also says that mold, the fungi, eats bread, French bread. Yeah. So Aubrey says that the plants get water and nutrients from the leaves, all right? That is correct. So in the vascular plants, then what's the difference between the vascular plants and the non-vascular plants? So here we have a tree, okay? We have also in this picture some ferns that you see, and then we have this moss growing all over. So what would be the difference as far as how these plants get their nutrients between the vascular ones and the non-vascular ones?
Well, the trees and ferns and stuff, they have root systems that help them to get nutrients and stuff from the ground, whereas the moss, it just kind of absorbs it, I think.
That's right. That's right. So the mosses and these bryophytes, they don't have the tubes that conduct the nutrients and the water. They have just to absorb it from the environment. Okay. So could mosses grow very tall?
No.
No. So they are usually very much remaining there on the ground level. Okay. So Emmeline says moss absorbs instead of being sucked up like a vascular plant. Yeah, excellent. So most people think, okay, that in the general kind of evolution of life, all right, of how organisms came about, that probably bryophytes are older than vascular plants, because the bryophytes didn't need to have all the the system of roots and stems and everything, they are kind of simpler, even though they are quite complex. Okay. Don't, yeah, Aubrey says that. Okay, great. Good deal, Aubrey. Go ahead, Anna. Anna?
Oh, I was just going to say, it's interesting learning about mosses and things because it seems like a really simple plant, but it's actually not as simple as it seems.
That's right, yeah. And that is one of the things that frankly always baffles me about people who believe on the theory of evolution, okay? Because when you think about it, okay, you know, the theory of evolution basically says that more complex organisms come from simpler organisms, all right? But if you consider the things that we have been learning here in this class, for example, have we ever found a simple organism?
Not really.
Not really, you know. Even the bacteria, okay, the amoebas were quite amazing, okay, all the things that they did and everything. You can say, well, yes, they are less complex than a human or a horse. The same that you can say that the moss is less complex than a tree. Okay, but when you actually look into it and look at all the things that they actually do, they are quite complex, quite amazing, you know, and there's nothing simple about them, really. You know, so that is one of the things that always amazes me about about people who kind of think about the theory of evolution. You really, at least to my knowledge, I never been able to find this simple life. Okay, I really don't see it. Okay, every single, you know, organism that we have studied, you know, even the bacteria that do cellular respiration. Okay, that process of cellular respiration, there is nothing simple about that. Right? You know, so even though these are, you know, less complex, okay, they are really not simple at all organisms. So that is great. Thank you very much. Anything else that you would like to add on what you've learned? What are what are the similarities between vascular and non-vascular plants? Anyone could add there to the chat or the question board. What are the things that are similar between the two? Let's open this also.
I think one just for me that I noticed was that they're both green, so they both do photosynthesis. That was interesting, just looking at the different pictures on that PowerPoint slide.
Yes, that's right. So they both do photosynthesis. So they are both green, okay? They do both photosynthesis. Aubrey says they are both living organisms, that's right. So living in the sense that they reproduce, they multiply, okay? They are both plants, okay? Excellent. What else? What do they, if they both do photosynthesis, what do they both need and what do they both produce?
Oxygen!
Oxygen, that's right, yes. So they both produce oxygen. Okay. So they both need carbon, okay? They both use carbon dioxide and water, all right? So very, very important, okay? So in this slide, what are some of the things that are different between vascular and non-vascular plants? What could you see that one has and the other doesn't? One grows on rocks, okay? The vascular has roots, all right? Okay. So The moss are, you know, certainly smaller. The vascular plants, one of the large, you know, types of vascular plants is what we saw in a previous lesson, the angiosperms, that are the flowering plants. Okay, so the flowering plants. So yes, what does this slide show us? Patrick says that one uses spores to reproduce. That's right. So the bryophytes use spores. The flowering plants use seeds. Yeah, Emmeline says non-vasculars has no petals or true leaves or roots. That's right. What does this slide show as a difference between vascular and non-vascular plants? Anna says that vascular can grow tall and branch out. That's right. Okay. The moss doesn't have a tree trunk. Okay, yeah, that's right. They don't have stems per se at all. Okay. So they are very, very short. How about the amount of water? What happens with vascular plants? What do we see in this tree, for example? What do we see in this tree, in this particular image of the tree? Yes, vasculars have phloem and xylem. Okay. Water goes up the tree. Water has to fall on the moss to be absorbed. Connor says mosses don't have leaves and the moss is soft and green. The leaves are not soft and green in the tree. Okay, yeah. So, but one of the things that I can see here is that the tree and a lot of the vascular plants can survive dry conditions. Okay. So vascular plants have been adapted to survive dry conditions, so much that many trees during the fall, they completely dry, all right? And then they survive the winter, they hibernate during the winter without leaves, without producing food, you know, without absorbing water, okay? Mosses and non-vascular plants cannot survive dry conditions. They will simply, you know, try to disperse spores and things like that, but they will, you know, if you transfer a moss to a dry place, it will shrivel and die, poor thing. Okay. So we have, anyone that would like to do the second academic principle? Okay, Emmeline, go ahead. Okay.
Awesome sauce. So, academic concept 2 is non-vascular plants include mosses, hornworts, and liverworts. So you know that moss is one of the most common groups of non-vascular plants. Kind of already gone over that. Another one is liverworts, and there's also a picture of that one, but it's basically a small flowerless green plant, and it has leaf-like stems you can see and lobed leaves. And so that's a pretty cool picture. And then, although hornworts aren't mentioned in the concept, it's basically an aquatic plant, and it has forked-looking leaves. And you may be surprised how much you recognize it. So I thought that was pretty cool. But the main focus of this concept is moss. And in the first video, it starts basically by reviewing what we kind of already learned in the first concept, that there are two types of plants, vascular and non-vascular. They mentioned mosses, liverworts, hornworts, but specifically it focuses on mosses. And so mosses have about 3 parts. First you have the rhizoids, which anchor the moss, but they do not provide water, which separates them from roots because, as we know, roots absorb water, or not absorb, but roots carry water to the plant. So then you have the gametophyte, and it's technically more of a stage in the plants, but it's the green part that we're normally familiar with. You can see kind of the leaf-looking structure. And then you have the sporophyte, and again, technically more of a stage, but sporophytes are the stalks poking out of the gametophyte, and they have capsules which release spores. Another thing the video mentions is the importance of moss, which I found was really cool, specifically sphagnum moss, which is the main ingredient in peat moss. And peat moss is used for a lot of things. So gardening, she mentioned agriculture, fuel for homes, specifically in the European area. And how peat moss works is that sphagnum moss grows on the surface of a bog. And because of the water's acidity, it can't decompose. And so over time, it turns into peat. And peat moss is typically bought in a home improvement store and looks like soil. You can see in the video how light brown, kind of cool looking. But the coolest part actually was that how much it resembled like a moss sponge. I didn't know that that type of moss was used for soaking up oil, which I thought was really cool because I never considered moss in that way. You know, pretty to look at, but I never viewed it as something that could contribute to the environment in that sort of way. So I thought that was super cool. So that was pretty much what the lesson went over. The next part was kind of talking about how bryophytes have a different and unique way to reproduce. We know that they don't have flowers, that they don't have seeds, but they have two-stage cycles that one is sexual and one is asexual. And the next video is kind of long, and it has a whole bunch of awesome stuff, and you might need to rewatch it a few times, but it's really awesome. But a bit of background needs to be understood before I really introduce the reproduction. So first of all, gametophytes are haploid and contain only one set of chromosomes, or not chromosomes, chromosomes. There are also two different plants in a moss. So you have the female plant and the male plant. Now, the male plant has stem tips that have reproductive structures called antheridia, which are supported by a stalk. And the upper portion of it has protective jacket that surrounds a group of sperm cells. In the female plant, they have tip structures, but instead of being called antheridia, they're called archegonia. And there are three parts, and I guess I'm going to go ahead and start from the bottom to the top. So first you have the stalk, followed by the venter, then followed by the neck. Stalk is pretty basic. That's where the plant gets a lot of its nutrients. The venter is a chamber where the egg is, and the neck is a canal that has a sperm attractant. You can see in the video where Mr. Boldy is at the sperm inside the jacket.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I haven't lost any of you yet. I know I'm kind of going fast. But really, as you watch the animation, it makes sense. You can see where he's pointing. You have the neck, and then that little oval thing below the neck is the venter. And then, of course, at the very end, you have the stalk. So now that we've understood what we're up against, we can move on to fertilization. So we've kind of learned that raining is the ideal weather for moss or non-vascular plants in general. And I'll explain why, and Mr. Boldy, you can correct me if I'm wrong or I misinterpreted something. So eventually, the sperm cells from the male plant is released. And if it happens to be raining, the sperm cells will be caught in the water and carried on to the female plant. Is that right?
That's right, yes. That's right, yes. Splash onto the female plant.
Yeah, and so you can see in the video how the sperm kind of escapes from the membrane and then has a flagella. And it searches for that sperm attractant, that kind of pink stuff that's going out of the female plant. And when the sperm finds the attractant, it kind of travels around it for a few seconds, whatever, and goes down the neck, into the venter, and inside the egg. And there's one thing you have to note, is that fertilization is basically egg nuclei plus sperm fusion. So in order for it to be fertilized, there has to be a fusion. Now you can kind of see the sperm as it's twirling around the egg, and it enters in, and you can kind of see it dissolving in a sense. And after that happens, the female plant obviously goes through some changes. And so the zygote forms an embryo, and one grows out of the venter and into the female stem, which we know is where it gets nutrients and water. And the other end of it basically grows upward until the venter expands and splits in half. So you can see the little zygote as it's spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading, and you can see how the venter is expanding in order to accompany that growth. And then soon after, you can see all the little nutrients in the water. And after that process, what happens is it just continues to grow and grow, and it forms a stalk, and then we have the sporophyte. So you can see it, the venter expanding and beginning to split, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. So when the torn center, or the calyptra, falls off, it reveals the capsule with the fertile tissue sporocytes. That's a sporophyte. And in the nucleus of every one of those sporocytes, there are 2 sets of chromosomes. And the nucleus divides by meiosis, and that forms 4 haploid nuclei, and that forms a structure called tetrad. So you can see the calyptra, and so I thought that was pretty cool. And so you go inside the capsule, and after it forms tetrad, there is something called the sporopollenin, which produces cells with thick resistant walls called spores, which we know is how mosses and other non-vascular plants reproduce. So when everything is ready, after the meiosis and after spores are formed, the capsules dry out and harden. You can see in the video how it slowly turns from green to like an orange, and the operculum falls off, and it reveals a peristome. I'm kind of wait for that to catch up. Yeah. And the peristome are those little teeth-like structures. They describe it as teeth-like. What happens is those teeth-like structures start to bend backwards, and the spores escape and are released, and they travel pretty far off from the parent plant. And eventually the spores will land to an exposed surface and germinate. But what's cool about the moss plant is that instead of forming a new metamorphyte instantly, it forms ProtoNima. I believe that's what it's called. And that kind of spreads out and eventually forms buds, which will in consequence make metamorphytes. So you can see the spore rolling, and you can see it opening, and then you can see the ProtoNima start to stretch out, it kind of reminding me of a snake or a worm. It just kind of goes around, it searches the surroundings, and then it starts to kind of form upwards, and those are the buds. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Let's see. Mute yourself, Emily, for a second. Okay, so can you see this is a quote unquote a simple plant, okay? Nothing very simple about the reproduction cycle of the moss. In fact, it has a double reproduction, so it has a sexual part and then the sporophyte part of the reproduction that is asexual, and really nothing simple about it. It's quite amazing, frankly. You did excellent job, Emily, in describing this this complex process. Very good, very good. Okay, and let me show you, let me see if I can show you, let me switch here to the camera, and I'm going to lower this, okay, and I found these mosses, okay, here growing on the north side of the building, okay, and so you see here the part of the rhizoids. I just grabbed a little bit, and the rhizoids literally just find, you know, and accumulate the soil, all right, but they don't absorb the water. The water is just absorbed by the whole thing. And see, these ones have quite a long rhizoids. Okay, let's see if we can bring that up. Okay, you know, so these are all part of that. And then we see here, I have a couple of different types, okay, of moss. So you see the gametophyte part of the plant, and look at the size of things. So some of these gametophytes are male and some are female, but you really cannot distinguish them by the naked eye. You would have to really go microscopic in order to find which one is which. Let me see if I can separate one. Okay, oh, okay. Here we separated just one of them. You see there. Okay, let's see if we can have it. Okay, there you see it on top of the needle there, right? Extremely small. And then in here we have some that show the sporophyte, the seta, and then the capsule on top, and this has inside them the spores that actually will travel and then make a new gametophyte plant afterwards. So really amazing plants, frankly. I don't see anything simple about them, okay? They are just a beautiful creation of God. One of the things that, you know, Emmeline was mentioning about when you were talking about the peat moss is this capability of making kind of a sponge and of absorbing things. So bryophytes are one way of how soil is created, okay? So they have this capability of making, you know, absorbing the nutrients and gathering things and making it kind of like a sponge. So very cool plants, amazing, really. So, okay. It is really amazing how small everything is, okay? So I hope you enjoy that. So what I would love for you to do is go and do some moss hunting, okay? Try to go around in your neighborhood, find some, you know, kind of dark places or wet places, sometimes old homes and so on, and go moss hunting. Cindy says that won't be very hard for me. Excellent. Okay, and I want you to look, okay, and be able to distinguish between mosses and mold, okay, or mildew. You know, in a lot of homes we grow mildew, or the lichens, okay. Connor says, I live kind of in a desert area, so there are zero moss around me, okay. Anna is asking, is mildew a fungi? Yes, okay. Is mildew a fungi? That's mildew is a fungi. What I learned is that mildew is more like a fuzzy kind of the initial growth of the fungi. So if you have a lot of fungi, that then will be called a mold, all right? So that is kind of the initial stages, if you wish. Emmeline says, are you asking me to go in the wetlands in my backyard? All the mosquitoes and mud, shivers. Well, go moss hunting and not mosquito hunting, if you can. Okay, very, very good. Excellent. So, good job. Emmeline, I was extremely impressed on how well you describe this complex reproduction mechanism. If you haven't, guys, seen this video, I really encourage you to watch the videos in this lesson because they are really, really well done, especially this one, okay? Sydney says she won't be hunting the mosquitoes will be hunting her. That's right. So Aubrey, in one of your comments, okay, you put that it looks like pine tree, all right? We haven't talked yet about the pine trees because that is the lesson on the gymnosperms, I don't know how to pronounce it, but we will talk about the pine trees and the reproduction cycle of the pine trees next time. We did a little bit last week, but we'll go into more detail next time. They are kind of different. So pines, remember, they do have seeds, okay? They are naked seeds. That's what gymnosperm means, but they have seeds and instead of spores. All right. So that is kind of one of the differences. Now, I've included here in this lesson, because I didn't know exactly where to put it, a concept here about lichens. Would any of you would like to talk about this concept of lichens? Anyone that dares to do that? Okay. Like Anna and Emmeline, very courageous and very well done. Okay. If any takers, if not, I'm going to have to do it myself. I don't want to do that, but we'll do, okay? So lichens are not plants at all. And they are very interesting. They are composite organisms. They are made of an algae cells or cyanobacteria cells. What is the difference between a regular bacteria and a cyanobacteria? What do you think the difference would be? What do the difference and what would be similar between a cyanobacteria and an algae? Okay. What would be the difference between a bacteria and a cyanobacteria? And why would the lichens be composed of cyanobacteria? Anyone? Okay. Anna says, I know I've heard about cyanobacteria before, but I can't remember what they are. So they are bacteria. Okay. Let's go here, let's pause this and let's go here to Wikipedia. Okay. Yeah, I imagine that you may be doing this. Cyanobacteria. Okay. So it's a type of bacteria and they obtain their energy through photosynthesis. Okay. The name cyano comes from Greek, okay, kyanos, that is blue, all right? So cyanobacteria is like blue bacteria and it's kind of like really blue-green, okay? And so they can do photosynthesis. Connor says, oh, I see a lot of this while I'm hiking. Yes, okay. So these are lichens. And the lichens are basically a composite organism that is made of algae cells and or cyanobacteria, okay, and a fungi, all right? Here he's pointing that the center of that is already dead, so they probably, the lichen has already consumed all the nutrients around, and then it's growing this other way, all right? So something important to understand, okay, is that this lichen, if you touch the lichen, it will eventually die. The oils that we have in our fingers will actually kind of kill the fungi, or probably will kill the algae or the bacteria, okay? And so it's not good to touch lichen. Connor is asking, is moss edible? All right, I don't think that moss is edible. If you were lost in the moss, consider a food to eat, okay, if you're lost in the woods, okay? So I would probably not try to eat moss, okay? So I would try probably some other things before doing the moss. This is a very cool video where he explains about lichens and how they grow. Okay, this other video also explains all the different types of lichens and what they are and how they are formed. Is very, very interesting. Okay. Connor says, I know my friend says it is, so that you can eat moss. Is that what your friend says? Have him try, okay, and then tell me what happens, okay? So, you know, don't have you try it, all right? Or reindeer moss is edible. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. So let's see what we can find about reindeer moss. Okay. Let's see, I don't know if okay. Caledonia, also known as reindeer moss, is a light color fructose lichen. Oh, so this is a lichen. So many lichens have the common name moss in them, but they are not moss at all. They are actually lichens. Okay, so the reindeer moss is a lichen. All right, let's see, it says hot, it grows on both hot and cold climates, found primarily in areas of the alpine tundra, and is extremely cold hardy. Okay, let's see in uses. So they eat it. So the inland Dianaani use reindeer lichen for food. Okay, so maybe in these people, let's see who these people are. Okay, in Alaska. Okay, so it's a group of native Alaskas that eat reindeer moss. That is a lichen, actually. Well, I guess that if you are in Alaska, you would probably try a lot of things that most people want to try. Okay. Aubrey is asking, is moss very strong and durable under weather pressures, or is it easy to kill? What do you think, guys? What is it? What do you think? So the question is moss strong and durable under weather pressures, or is it easy to kill? Emmeline says, I think it would be pretty durable. Okay, any other? Sydney puts, it is waterproof. No, it's not waterproof. Moss absorbs water. Okay. Anna says, I think it survives well in wet weather conditions. How about in dry weather? What happens in dry weather with moss? What happens in dry weather with moss? It dies. Yes, it shrivels up and dies. So if moss grows and if it starts to detect that it's going to get dry or hot, then it goes very fast. It tries to go fast into the reproduction cycle, okay, and starts creating the sporophytes, all right? So you can see many times that when mosses start getting into dry conditions, they are going to have the sexual reproduction and then create the sporophytes so that they can send the spores out before they dry up, all right? So the spores can survive a long time in a dry condition, okay? Wow, I now just took the capsule out of one of the sporophytes here. I don't think that you can probably see it. Let me see if I can see the dark. No, it's too close, okay? There you may be able to see it, but it's very, very small. So that the moss is not very hardy. Okay, it really needs wet conditions to survive. Now it tries to send the spores out as soon as possible in order to ensure kind of reproduction when wet conditions come back. Emmeline is asking, do lichens reproduce in the same way that moss does, or is it different? It's actually very different. So the moss is actually, like we were saying, a composite between a fungi, an algae, and or a cyanobacteria, okay? Let's say in this, and they live kind of in a symbiotic relationship. And so here we see the filaments of the fungi, all right, enveloping a cell, okay, of a cyanobacteria that does photosynthesis, all right, or an algae cell. And so that is kind of how it goes. And the hypha of the fungi has to penetrate the photosynthetic cell in order to draw the nutrients out, okay? So they both benefit, all right? The fungi benefits by having the photosynthesis, the sugars produced, okay? And by the algae or the cyanobacteria, and the algae and the cyanobacteria benefit from the protection of the hypha of the fungi because it maintains the level of humidity, is able to absorb, the hypha is able to bring nutrients to the organism to do photosynthesis, okay? So here you see how the structure of the lichen is. So you have a layer, a cortex of fungi, the filaments, and then here is a spongy area, and then you have all the photosynthetic cells, okay, the photosynthesizing cells up here, and then another cortex of a fungi that attaches to the rock or whatever substrate it is, okay, and that is called the thallus, this part. All right. Now, when we go to describe the reproduction, okay, this is how the reproduction happens. It is actually a much simpler reproduction. Okay, let's see, it's going to catch up the video. This is showing that, okay, and so when the lichen reproduce, it kind of just explodes and sends parts of, okay, let's see again there, I wanted to pause it. So it sends very small fragments that can be carried by the wind, all right, or water to other places, and then it sends these very small fragments of the fungi and one or two cyanobacteria or cells of the algae together. And those are carried off, and then whenever it gets into some good condition, it's going to reproduce and grow again another lichen. Okay, so this is also, this would be, if you wish, a simpler way of reproduction. Okay, but if you can think about the organism as a whole, it's not very simple at all. Here you have literally that are two different types of organisms growing together. Okay, so very, very interesting, these lichens. The lichens are also very important for biology because they are things that grow in very inhospitable environments, in rocks and walls and so on, and they can break that down and actually create soil. Okay, so they are some of the soil creators, the lichens. Okay. You have any questions? Any other questions? Okay. Sydney says, once I took some moss and put it on a plate in the window in the sun for a few weeks, and then after a week it was dry. Then I would water it every day, and a week later it was like normal moss again. Okay, so it survived, so you are saying, Sydney, that it survived a period of dryness and then it came back. Excellent. That would be actually a pretty cool experiment to do. What do you think that you could do as an experiment? Aubrey, you were asking about mosses are durable or not under weather pressures. What do you think we could do as an experiment to test this out? Sydney has given us here some ideas. Anyone that would like to talk about that? What do you think would be a good experiment to test the survivability of moss? How would you do it? If anyone wants to talk, okay, you can unmute yourself or ask me to unmute you. And Cindy says you can put it in the freezer. Okay, good. Yeah, that's one way to test it, to test under cold conditions. Okay. Patrick says try to see where it can grow. You can put it in the snow. Okay. So what would be some things? I have lots of snow right now. That would be a test that you can do. Okay. So what do you think, guys? What would be good ways of testing the survivability of moss? Okay. Anna says put it in a dark place and see how well it survives without any light at all. Okay. Connor is asking to put it in the microwave. Okay, yeah, you can try to put it in the microwave and see what happens. So there are several, again, these are all good ideas, okay, just kidding. So it probably won't survive the microwave, okay? Very few things, I think, survive the microwave. All right, but it's still a test. All right, you can see what happens, okay? What I was actually thinking is probably to grab a piece of moss, all right, and then you can grab several parts and put it into different conditions, okay? So you can put it, in a dry place without added water, okay, and then make it, see if it lasts 1 week, all right, and then after 1 week, see if you can revive it back again by giving it water. or if it can last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, okay, so you can try that. So Aubrey says, I don't have any moss where I live. I know of, okay, or else I would put it in the snow and see if the moisture will run out the coal. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Connor says that her sister can make the whole tan run out when using the microwave. Okay, good deal. So let's go now to the part of the lesson of the gospel principle. And here is asking us to kind of look at the different creations of God and see really that things are different, and there are also other things that are kind of similar. But I want you to tell me about, we talk here about vascular plants, kind of like regular plants. We talk about the non-vascular plants, the bryophytes, and how different they are, okay? And we also talk about the lichens that are really extremely different, very, very different from the rest, okay? They are not plants at all, right? They are these symbiotic organisms between algae and fungi, okay? And very, very different. But what are some of the things that you can see? Okay, I'm going to kind of be playing here with the moss, okay, while we think about these things. It's interesting that really they don't have a root system. They are just these long things, and you see how they are kind of all connected together. Very, very interesting. It's fun to play with moss. They are kind of spongy and very nice and soft to the touch. All right. Sydney says, I will try some of the moss experiments and let you know how they do by next week. Excellent. That would be good. So if you want to do that as the assignment, go ahead. That is a very good thing. So as we go through life, we are going to encounter different people that are very different from us, okay? People that have different beliefs. Do you know of other people that are very different from you? Do you know people that are very different from you? Very different. Sydney says, when I was little, I would make fairy houses and give them moss carpets. Yes, that is pretty cool. Yeah, Emily says, yes, I know some people that are very, very different. Okay. Have you ever had the opportunity to talk to people that are very different from you, for example, about religion? People that are, of a different religion, and have you had the chance to talk to them? Okay. Sydney says yes. Anna says a little bit. Brandon and Emily say yes. Okay. How was that experience for you? How was that experience for you? Patrick says, oh yeah. So many, many times. Good. How was that experience for you? Was it a little difficult? Sydney says a little difficult. Was it easy? Patrick says, I have met a lot of different people. Aubrey says, they usually think they know everything about our religion, so they usually aren't very open-minded to change, okay, the way they think. Braden says, it wasn't as hard as people have said, okay? All right. Nothing is totally easy. Connor mentions that. That's correct. Okay. Now, we need to learn, okay, to be able to interact well with people that are different from us. Okay. And one of the things that I have found that is very useful in being able to interact well with people that are different is to actually have a sincere curiosity for their belief system. Okay, so many times we get kind of too concentrated, I would say, or I have got too concentrated on trying to share my beliefs with others. Okay, but what I have found is that it is a lot easier for me to share my beliefs with others when I show interest in understanding their beliefs. Okay, what do they think? Why they are the way they are? Okay, and not in an argumentative, okay, thing, but in a nice thing. Yes, of course. Sydney, do you want to say something? Go ahead. You can unmute yourself and then you'll be able to talk. Patrick says they all have their own perspective and a lot of them don't think that a lot of the stuff we do is that bad. They have different moral standards. Yes. So Sydney, could you unmute yourself? Okay. Oh, it won't let you unmute yourself. Oh, that's bad. Okay. So I'm sorry. I click on it and it won't let me. Oh, that's bad. Okay. So anyway, so that's kind of the message here for the lesson is for us to find ways of being able to interact with others. Okay. We have here the 11th article of faith that says, we claim the privilege of worshiping Almighty God according to the dictates of our own conscience and allow all men the same privilege. Let them worship how, where, or what they may. And this part of allowing others to worship however they want is like a no kidding thing. Okay, we are not just trying to be friendly. We need to really be very respectful and sincere in letting people worship however they want. Okay. Emmeline says here, for me personally, it was eye-opening to see what other people think. We are all here on this earth to be edified from each other. Belief systems, academic differences, personal interests, political opinions, even if they are the total opposite of ours, brings insight. Sharing information doesn't need to be contentious, but share with love and understanding. Excellent. And Sydney says, I was going to say, like what you said, that I asked them what they think about certain thing, and then I put in my input and my beliefs. That's right. So we try always to ask for others, okay, to understand others and what is their position and everything, and then we are able to do our own, okay, to share our own. So let's see, okay, Natasha. So the time has gone. Okay, Natasha, would you like to give us the closing prayer? Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, I'm thankful for this day and that we could be in class today. Please help us to use what we learned today in our lives. Please help us to have a good day, the rest of the day. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.